Set my wine glass down slowly, like if I moved too fast the whole table might notice my hands were shaking. They were still laughing. My sister, her boyfriend, my mom, even my aunt, who'd driven 4 hours from Sudbury, all of them, laughing at something Connor had just said about me. I just sat there and let the sound wash over me. Here's the thing about being the quiet one in a family. People mistake your silence for acceptance. They think because you don't argue back, you agree. They think because you smile and change the subject, everything's fine. They've been doing it my whole life, and I'd spent 31 years letting them. That Sunday was supposed to be a birthday dinner for my mom. Nothing fancy. My sister Brooke had booked a private room at that Italian place on Elgin Street in Ottawa. The one with the wine rack built into the brick wall and the candles that drip onto the tablecloth. It was October, the kind of cold that gets into your coat before you've even locked the car. I'd driven in from Kanata alone, which was already a thing I was bracing for, because my family has this gift for making "you came by yourself again" into a full conversation. Brooke had been dating Connor for about 4 months. I'd met him once before, briefly, at a backyard thing in August. He'd seemed fine, firm handshake, talked a lot about CrossFit, called my mom ma'am in a way that made her laugh. She'd liked him immediately. That was enough for her. What I knew about Connor, professionally, he'd mentioned something about being in finance. Sales side of things, he'd said vaguely. I hadn't asked more. I worked in municipal tax assessment for the city of Ottawa. Not glamorous, not exciting, but I knew numbers better than most people know their own names. I'd been doing it for 6 years. I'd passed my AIMA designation. I understood how money moved through institutions and through people's lives in ways that most people genuinely don't think about until something goes wrong. Connor did not know any of this when he decided to make me the entertainment for the evening. It started small. It always does. We were on the appetizers, calamari and bruschetta, and my mom was telling a story about her neighbor's dog when Connor interrupted to ask what everyone did for work. Standard dinner question. My sister went first. She manages a medical spa in Westboro. Does well, bought her condo 2 years ago. My Aunt Fran is retired from the federal public service. My mom is part-time at a garden center now that my dad's gone, but she talked about it like she loved it, which she does. Then Connor looked at me. And what about you, Lee? Tax assessment, I said. For the city. There was a pause. A small one. The kind that, if you're being generous, you might call thoughtful. He was not being thoughtful. So like, he tilted his head. You're a city worker. I'm an assessor, yeah. He made a sound that I can only describe as a suppressed laugh. The corner of his mouth pulled up. He looked at Brooke, then back at me. And you? Like that? Just sitting in an office checking boxes all day? My sister nudged him gently, but she was smiling too, like it was a little edgy but fundamentally funny. It's actually pretty involved, I said, keeping my voice even. Property valuation, tech space modeling, appeals. Oh, for sure, for sure. He waved his hand. Dismissed. I just mean, did you ever think about doing something a bit more dynamic? Like finance, consulting, something where you're actually building something? There it was. I looked at my mom. She was rearranging her napkin. Not meeting my eyes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with government work, my Aunt Fran said, because she'd spent 30 years in it and clearly felt she should say something. But even she said it in the soft voice you use when you're trying not to start something. Connor smiled at her. Generous? Oh, totally, for people who want stability. But some of us need more of a challenge, right? He looked at me when he said that last part. No offense, Lee. Just seems like you're smart enough to do more. The table laughed. Not cruelly. They thought he was being charming. Teasing? The kind of thing people say when they think they're complimenting you while simultaneously explaining why you've made inferior life choices. My mom said, she's always been the careful one. Which was meant to be kind and landed like a stone. I picked up my wine glass. Took a sip. Said nothing. Connor, encouraged by the room's warmth, kept going. He started talking about his own work. This was where he came alive. He was with a firm, he named it quickly, I'll come back to that specialized in investment portfolio management, high net worth clients. He'd been there 3 years, worked his way up, was on track for a significant promotion. He talked about client lunches at the Chateau Laurier. He talked about a deal he'd been involved in that had moved 7 figures. He talked about the kinds of cars his clients drove. My sister was watching him like he was the most fascinating person she'd ever brought to a dinner table. My Aunt Fran asked polite questions. My mom looked relieved to have moved past the awkward part. I listened. The firm he'd mentioned, I won't say the name here, but I recognized it. More than recognized it. In my work, particularly in the commercial property file I'd been part of for the past 8 months, I'd been reviewing a cluster of filings tied to several numbered companies that all traced back, eventually, to that firm. We weren't the only ones with questions about it. There was a coordinated review involving the Ontario Securities Commission. It wasn't public yet, but it wasn't a secret inside the professional circles that would care. I knew, sitting at that dinner table, that the firm Connor worked for was currently under regulatory scrutiny for undisclosed related party transactions and potential securities violations. I knew, specifically, that the 7-figure deal tier he was describing was exactly the tier being examined. I didn't say anything then. I wanted to be sure I was remembering correctly. And honestly, a small part of me was also just watching him perform, watching my family respond to him, because the performance was something. You know what the problem is with government jobs? He said between bites of his entree. He'd ordered the veal, of course. No skin in the game. You show up, you do your hours, you go home. There's no incentive to actually be excellent. Lee's excellent at her job, Brooke said. And I want to be fair, she did say it. But she said it the way you say something when you're managing a situation, not because you mean it as a statement of fact. I'm sure she is, Connor said, with the warmth of someone who has already decided the subject is closed. He looked at me. I just think people with real potential sometimes get comfortable. It's not a criticism, it's just, I've seen it. People who could have been great, and they chose safe instead. I took a slow breath. Where do you get your designation? I asked. He blinked. What? Your designation? For the portfolio management side. Are you a CFA? Registered with IROC? I kept my voice totally neutral, like I was just making conversation. Or is it more on the advisory side? Because that's a different registration with CIRO now since the merger. The briefest hesitation. I'm working toward my CFA? Sure, I said. What level? Another pause. Longer this time. I've done the first exam. Level 1. Out of 3. After 3 years in the industry. I nodded. Smiled. Said, that's a hard program. Respect. I let it sit there. He pivoted back to the table. Started a new story. Something about a client trip to Whistler. My mom asked what ski runs they'd done, and the moment passed, or appeared to. But I'd already picked up my phone under the table. I wasn't being dramatic. I genuinely needed to check something. I pulled up the OSC notice I bookmarked weeks ago when the file had first come across my desk. Read the firm name, read the dates of the review period, checked them against what Connor had said about his deal. It lined up. I put my phone face down on the table. We got through the main course. Connor made 2 more jokes at my expense. One about government pension math, and one about how I probably hadn't been to a restaurant like this on my salary, which made my Aunt Fran's smile go a little tight. And I noticed that, even if she didn't say anything, my mom laughed quietly in that way she does when she's uncomfortable, but doesn't want to make it worse by acknowledging that she's uncomfortable. The birthday cake came out. We sang. My mom cried a little happy tears, and for a few minutes it was just a family and a cake, and everything was fine. Then Connor ordered another glass of wine and started talking about the firm again. Something about expansion plans, new client acquisition, how the next 2 years were going to be massive for them. I looked at my sister. She was glowing. She believed every word. I thought about staying quiet. I genuinely thought about it. Not forever. I'm not that person anymore. But for the evening, let it go. Drive home, call my friend Petra in the morning, debrief the whole thing, be annoyed about it quietly like I always had been. But then he said something that I couldn't let sit. He said, in the context of explaining why the firm was going to grow, "We're completely clean, no issues. The OSC loves us." He said it confidently, casually, like it was just a throwaway line. My mom nodded. My Aunt Fran nodded. My sister reached over and put her hand on his arm. I reached for my phone and turned it over. "I'm sorry," I said. My voice was quiet. I wasn't performing calm. I was genuinely calm. "I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. You said the OSC has no issues with the firm." He looked at me with the particular expression men like him get when someone they've dismissed decides to re-enter the conversation. Mild irritation wrapped in patience. "Yeah, we're solid." "Why?" "I'm asking because I've been looking at a commercial property file for about 8 months," I said, "and some of the numbered companies in that file trace back to your firm." The OSC opened a coordinated review in August. Related party transactions and disclosure issues. It hasn't been made public yet, but it's been shared with relevant professional bodies. Silence. Not the gentle kind. Connor set his wineglass down. The clink of it against the table was very loud. "I don't know what you think you've read," he said. His voice was different. Flatter. "I can show you the preliminary notice if you'd like," I said. "I have it saved." I unlocked my phone, found the document, and set it face up on the table in front of him. He looked at it. He didn't pick it up. But he looked at it long enough that I knew he recognized what it was. My sister said, "What is this?" "A preliminary regulatory notice," I said. "It's not a finding of guilt. I want to be clear about that. Reviews happen, but he said the OC loves them, and that's not quite accurate right now." My mom said very quietly, "Lay." And there it was, the tone. The same tone she'd used my entire life when I said something true at the wrong moment. "I'm not trying to ruin anything," I said. He said something that wasn't accurate, and Brooke should know." My sister was looking at Connor, not at me. "Is this real?" she asked him. A long pause. "There's a review," he said finally. "It's standard. It's nothing." "You told me the firm was clean," she said. "It is clean. Reviews are part of the business, you just..." He stopped. Recalibrated. "This isn't the place." "You made fun of my work for 2 hours," I said. I didn't say it with heat. I said it factually, which I think landed harder. "You said I had no skin in the game. You said I'd chosen safe over excellent, and the entire time, you work for a firm that's currently under regulatory review that you didn't disclose to your girlfriend." Nobody at the table said anything. My Aunt Fran had her hands folded in front of her. She was looking at the tablecloth. My mom had gone very still. Connor said, "I don't have to sit here and you don't." I agreed. "You really don't." He stood up. Brooke looked at him, then at me, then back at him. She didn't stand up. That was the moment I'll remember. He put on his jacket, said something low to Brooke that I couldn't hear. She shook her head slightly. He left. The private room was very quiet for about 30 seconds. Then my Aunt Fran said, "Well, happy birthday, I guess." And my mum laughed, a real laugh startled out of her, and something cracked open. We stayed another hour. We finished the wine. We talked about other things. Normal things. The kind of conversation families have when everyone agrees by silent consensus to let the dust settle before sorting through it. My sister didn't say much. But before we left, when we were getting our coats on in the lobby, she touched my arm. "How long have you known?" she asked. "I recognized the firm name when he mentioned it at dinner," I said. "I checked the document during the main course." She was quiet for a moment. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" I thought about that. "Because I wanted to be sure, and because..." I paused. I think I was still hoping I was wrong. She nodded. She didn't hug me. We're not that kind of family. But she held my gaze for a second in a way she hadn't in a long time, and then she said, "Thank you," and went to get her car. My mom caught me in the parking lot. It was cold, properly cold, the kind of October night in Ottawa where your breath makes clouds and the pavement's already got that thin ice look under the streetlights. "You could have handled that differently," she said. I pulled my scarf up. "I know." It was my birthday dinner. I know, Mom. But she stopped, put her hand on my arm for just a second. That boy was lying to your sister, and you knew, and you said something. She didn't say she was proud of me. That's not really something she says. But she said what she said, and she said it looking directly at me, and then she kissed my cheek and got in her car. I sat in my own car for a while before I started the engine. It was very quiet, just the sound of the parking lot and the hum of the city. I thought about the 6 years of work that had put that document on my phone, the designation I'd studied for, the files I'd built, the cases I'd reviewed, the way I'd listened to people my whole life call my work boring, safe, invisible, while that same work was the thing I'd use tonight to protect someone I loved from a man who thought the room's laughter was permission to keep going. Quiet doesn't mean nothing is happening. It just means the work is happening somewhere they can't see it. I drove home. The highway was almost empty. Ottawa slid past in orange light, flat and wide and familiar. I thought about what my mom had said. Not the criticism, the other part, the part where she'd touched my arm. That was enough.